Every wild animal on Earth is running the same background calculation all the time: speed of approach, direction, eye contact. The output is almost always identical: get away from the human. And this isn't something animals learn by watching other animals get hurt. Species that have never encountered a human before still flee from them, tested in controlled conditions, confirmed across dozens of studies. The fear is inherited, encoded deeper than memory or experience. So imagine what it means when that system goes quiet. A human walks toward a trapped animal carrying a knife, and something in millions of years of threat detection just stops responding. Not because the animal trusts the human, it doesn't, but because what the human is doing doesn't match anything the system was built to recognize. Evolution never wrote a response for this situation, because this situation shouldn't exist. That's what this video is about. We're going to look at three things: what being trapped does to an animal's body, why the way humans rescue doesn't register as a threat, and what some of these animals do after the trap opens. The last part is where it gets genuinely strange. The moment a wild animal loses the ability to move, its body enters a state that has no real human equivalent. Cortisol floods the bloodstream. Adrenaline climbs to concentrations that would be lethal if they held for more than a few minutes. Heart rate doubles, then doubles again. A study published in the European Journal of Wildlife Research found that ungulates caught in fencing show higher cortisol levels than animals injured by gunshot, higher than being shot. The body isn't distinguishing between types of crisis at that point. It's just burning through every reserve it has, running every emergency system simultaneously. From the outside, this state looks very specific. Pupils blown fully wide, muscles not tense the way a nervous animal is tense, but locked, the way a body locks when it's committed everything to a single outcome. Breathing goes shallow and fast. The mouth may hang slightly open. Wildlife rehabilitators who work with trapped animals describe it the same way across species. The animal goes somewhere else, still present in the body, but no longer processing anything except the immediate threat. And then a human shows up. The animal doesn't read rescuer. It reads the arrival of an apex predator at the worst possible moment, when it can't run, can't fight effectively, and has already been burning its reserves for however long it's been stuck. This is why the thrashing gets worse as you approach. The animal's threat system interprets your closing distance as the final phase of a hunt. It spends whatever it has left on the only response its entire history has ever given it. That response makes complete sense. The animal has no information suggesting this situation is anything other than the last few seconds before a kill. Everything its nervous system was shaped to do in this moment points toward one conclusion, which is what makes the shift so hard to explain. At some point in some of these encounters, the frantic motion stops. Not from exhaustion. This happens too fast and too deliberately for that. The locked body softens slightly, and the animal turns toward the human. Not away, toward. It holds that position, and it watches. Something in the calculation changed. The question is what? The explanation researchers favor comes down to pattern recognition, specifically the absence of a match. Every predator that has ever killed something moves a certain way when it closes in. Fast, direct line, body oriented toward the target. The sounds it makes, if any, fit a specific profile. A trapped animal's alarm system has been calibrated against this pattern across millions of years of encounters. That pattern is what it's scanning for. That's the only thing it knows how to respond to. A human trying to free an animal doesn't move like that at all. The approach is slow. There are no sudden gestures. The hands go to the trap, the rope, the net, not to the animal. The sounds don't match anything in the catalog of things that have historically meant death. The brain runs the search, checks every threat signature it carries, and finds nothing that fits. When there's no recognized pattern to respond to, the crisis response has nothing to lock onto. It doesn't switch off. It just stalls. The animal waits, because it genuinely doesn't know what it's waiting for. There's a wolf case from Yellowstone that shows this in a way that's hard to forget. A research team found a wolf caught in a leg-hold trap. It lunged and snapped at every approach, exactly what you'd expect, the biology playing out by the book. One researcher stopped moving entirely and held eye contact with the wolf without looking away, not staring it down aggressively, just holding it, steady, without moving closer. Eye contact between predator and prey carries real weight in mammal communication, but the specific signal a predator sends when it's about to kill doesn't include sustained, still eye contact. A predator hunting watches the body, tracks movement, calculates angles. It doesn't stop and hold your gaze. Sustained direct eye contact that isn't paired with aggression or forward movement sits outside the standard threat template. Some researchers think it reads closer to social engagement, the kind of signal that comes from another animal that isn't trying to kill you, even if it isn't exactly friendly either. The wolf's alarm system, already searching for a predator pattern that wasn't arriving, hit this signal and couldn't place it. After several minutes, the lunging stopped. The wolf sat down. It held the eye contact back. When the team started working on the trap mechanism, the wolf watched their hands. When the trap released, it stood still for a moment, looked directly at the researcher, then walked into the trees. That stall isn't specific to wolves, or to land animals, or to mammals of a certain size. The same biology runs in animals with completely different nervous systems, living in completely different environments. The trigger is the same: a calm body, moving without aggression, doing something the threat catalog has no entry for. The humpback off San Francisco is about as far from a wolf in Yellowstone as you can get, but the underlying thing is identical. 12 crab traps, each 90 pounds, wrapped around her mouth, fins and tail, pulling her under. She'd been fighting to keep her blowhole above the surface for hours before the divers arrived. The moment they entered the water, she stopped moving. For over an hour, she held position at the surface while they worked across her body with curved knives. At several points, she rotated, extended a fin, adjusted her angle, movements that gave the divers better access to the lines they were cutting. A 50-foot, 50-ton animal actively cooperating with strangers holding knives. The divers weren't safe because she trusted them. They were safe because her threat system had run out of patterns to match against them. Field researchers describe both cases the same way: suspension of threat response. The alarm didn't go quiet because the animal felt safe. It went quiet because the expected sequence of predator behavior never arrived, and a system built to respond to that sequence had nothing left to run. When the last rope came free from the humpback off the Farallon Islands, she didn't leave. She swam wide circles around the 4 divers, then surfaced beside each one individually, nudging them with the tip of her jaw before moving to the next. James Mosquito, one of the divers, told the San Francisco Chronicle, "It felt like gratitude." Scientists are careful with that word, and for good reason. Behavior following hours of extreme physiological stress is genuinely difficult to interpret. An animal coming down from that state might do unusual things for reasons that have nothing to do with recognizing what just happened. But here's what makes the careful answer complicated. Humpback whales carry spindle neurons, the same specialized brain cells found in humans, great apes, and elephants, long assumed to exist only in primates. These cells are associated with empathy and rapid social decision-making. The neurological architecture for processing what that afternoon required isn't absent in humpbacks. Whether she used it, the data can't say. The elephant cases pull in the same direction but feel even harder to dismiss. Juvenile elephants pulled from mud pits in Kenya have been documented making deliberate trunk contact with the people who freed them, trunk to hand, trunk to forearm, before walking away. The trunk is an elephant's primary sensory organ, packed with over 40,000 individual muscles and nerve endings as dense as human fingertips. When an elephant extends its trunk to touch something slowly and holds the contact for several seconds, that's not a reflex. It's an examination. The animal is gathering information about something it wants to understand. Elephants return to the bones of companions who died years earlier and touch them. They recognize their own reflections. They carry social memories across decades. The cognitive gap between an elephant and an animal that could distinguish human who hurt me from human who helped me is not a gap that exists. Some researchers have documented elephants remaining close to their rescuers for several minutes after release, long past any point where threat suspension logic applies. The trap is open. The danger is gone. There's no biological reason to stay. And yet they stay. The honest answer is that we don't know what any of this means from the inside. What it is to be the wolf standing at the tree line, watching the people who freed it walk back to their vehicles. What was happening in the water when that whale moved from diver to diver? Whether any of it registered as something, or whether we find meaning in these moments because we're also animals running pattern recognition, and the pattern we keep finding is ourselves. What the data confirms is narrow but real. Certain animals measurably suspend their threat response when a calm human works around them without triggering the patterns a predator would trigger. What happens after, in some of these cases, includes behavior that serves no obvious survival function. The tools to go further are improving neuroimaging in cetaceans, long-term tracking in elephant populations, and some of what's currently uncertain will sharpen over time. The researchers who study this most carefully hold the question open. The animals don't answer it.